And I ask you now to please welcome our keynote speaker, the 2018 Distinguished Rural Kentuckian, Warren Beeler.
How does my hair look? You know, I combed it twice right before I came with a wash rag, and I can't do a thing with it. Congratulations, David Beck. What a wonderful choice. Man who's absolutely served agriculture in so many different capacities and carries a big stick when you get down to it. So I just thought that was perfect. That is perfect. Now, you have to understand, Mr. Beck, I'm the only hog farmer from Caneyville on this list, if you look down through there. That's what kind of comes down to. I must say, congratulations on 75 years. What a wonderful, wonderful organization that turns the lights on, that does everything that we expect, a service that we just take for granted. And I appreciate it, to have what you do and to work very hard at keeping those rates low. That's magical. And now what you're doing with broadband. I had a man tell me the other day, said, Warren, I can go to Europe and turn on my irrigation system, but I can't do it standing on my own farm. We can't farm without broadband. So what you're doing is opening the door to things that we do. Our little daughter Abby was handicapped. When the power went off, so did our oxygen machine. You're special. You're absolutely special. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart for what you do every day. And I wish we could figure out a way to appreciate you more and not take you for granted, but that's where we are. You've done it so long and made it look so easy. That's where we're at. Now, I always start by asking this question. Any basketball fans in the room? The president is. And I ask that because, you know, when we were little, we must have got vaccinated. We just play football to get to basketball season. I think that's part of it. Unless we're winning, then we like it pretty good. It's a little bit addicting, get you in trouble. I was at the Dairy Nationals over at Mr. Beck's place a few years ago, and I walked in there, and the Ayrshire Queen was 6'4". I walked up to her, and I looked her right in the eye. I said, do you play basketball? She looked down on my bald head and she said, yes, sir, I do. She said, do you play miniature golf? I said, well, matter of fact, I do, yeah. I'm from Caneyville, Kentucky. Does anybody in here know where Caneyville is except Tim Purcell? He's also from Caneyville. Raised up on a dairy farm there in Caneyville and absolutely had a great set of parents. We talked about that made me work, that made me mine, and taught me the value of family. And I don't think there's much else in the world when it comes down to really when you study life. That's it. In Caneyville, we got a four-way stop. Nobody stops that. Because we just wave. We know you're a visitor if you don't wave. Because everybody knows where everybody's going. The other night I came in late. 3 of us at the four-way stop. I'd like to have never got through there. You know what I mean? Caneyville's a wonderful place. I went to Caneyville High School, all 12 grades. And you know, one of the wonderful things about being in a high school like that with a class of 50-something graduating is the influence that the older kids had on the little kids and the little kids had on the older kids, which we lose a little bit when we go to separate schools. We knew they were watching us, and we were sure little we were watching them. And so I had a wonderful, wonderful relationship there in high school. And then I went to Western Kentucky University. Go Hilltoppers. I had never, my dad, all he'd done was milk cows. I'd never been anywhere. I got lost the first day on campus. Couldn't figure my way around the hill. Got an animal science degree there and was on the livestock judging team, which turned out to be my lifelong hobby, judging livestock shows. And then when I graduated, I went to work for the National Swine Registry out of, at that time was a Yorkshire Club. Traveling the country, visiting 4 or 5 hog farmers a day. I didn't know anything about hogs. You know, when they interviewed me, Joe, Dr. Jones, he gave me a 2-hour crash course. Didn't none of it stick. You know what the man asked me? He didn't ask me about hogs. He asked me about family. That's what he wanted to know. And I knew a lot about family. I worked there. We traveled. We worked 200 sales a year, flying 3 times a month. I got home 15 nights a year, driving 100,000 miles and flying all the time. It was a wonderful way to learn. Wonderful way to learn. Did that for a few years, and then Hampshire hired me and got me back into the Southeast. I was out in the Southwest in Stillwater, Oklahoma, and I did that. And then all of a sudden, Western Kentucky called me back. I went back and ran the Expo Center when they first built the thing there, and the livestock at the farm. That's when I met Miss Dee Dee. I was her boss. Man, has that changed. I knew she was the one. I was out there and I was over the livestock at the farm, and I was in there in the farrowing house, and I'd brought me a pizza in and set it up on the dusty old crate there, watching the sow have pigs. She came down and sat on the bucket on the other side and eat pizza with me. I said, now that's my kind of woman. Married her, brought her out of Brownsboro Road here in Louisville, stuck her at the end of the dirt road in Caneyville. My dad was telling people she won't last 6 weeks. And May 22nd, it will be 40 years. I woo her with my ways. We had the most wonderful time, and then I got hired back by the Hampshire Association to start the first junior association in swine. I love the teaching aspect of that and building those relationships. And then the money ran out there, and so I went home. John started farming. Love farming. I'm an agriculture guy. Eat, sleep, think, dream about it, love it all the time. Raised hogs, and I didn't raise hogs for the sake of raising hogs. I was raised hogs to try to raise a good one. Every time we had a litter of pigs, it was like a Christmas present. Hard for you all to imagine, but I studied them when they were little. Did that for 20 years, and until in December of 1998, the hog business got so good, I had to get a real job. And Commissioner Billy Ray Smith, one of the distinguished rural Kentuckians, gave me a job. I owe him the rest of my life. And I went to work Department of Ag, driving 4 hours a day, 2 back, leaving at 4 o'clock in the morning, and because of the time zone as well. And I did that for, well, actually 22 years, but the last 5 at the Governor's Office of Agricultural Policy over the tobacco settlement money. I mean, a job where I was so exposed to agriculture, I wish I could have took you with me and show you what agriculture looks like today. It's off the chart. It's amazing. It's not like you think it is. When you think of agriculture, what do you think of? Guys in an overall with tobacco juice running down his chin. It's science in its most applied, most advanced state. I just want to tell you a little bit about it. You can't have a Beeler speech without a little bit about agriculture, and because that's all I know. Who would have thought 25 years ago that the leading industry in agriculture in Kentucky would be poultry? 25, 30 years, we didn't have any chicken barns. And now we've got them all over Western Kentucky. My son-in-law and daughter just built 2 chicken houses. 600 foot long, hold 50,000 chickens. They do the little bird. Start them off at 92 degrees. Every day, drop the temperature, raise the feeders and waters to fit the bird. In 31 days, they got a 4-pound bird. The first week, they triple in weight, and they double in weight every week after that. With a feed efficiency of 1.47. They eat 1.5 pounds of feed, and they gain 1 pound. I thought I was the only person in the world that could do that. But chickens do it every day. Now that's perfect genetics. That's perfect nutrition. That's perfect environment to get that kind of efficiency and performance. The poultry industry. So I was raised on the dairy. My dad milked for 41 years, and my brother. And the biggest dairy we got in the state is in Logan County. Lee Roby's down there milking 2,000, 2,500 cows, works them 3 times a day, 50 at a time. They're giving 30,000 pounds of milk a year. We milk them 10 months, two months off, have a calf, they start over. That's 11 gallons per cow per day. I took my dad over to see the, I never remember when I was a kid, not having to go to the barn anymore. I think I started because I wanted to, but then all of a sudden I didn't have any choice. And twice a day, 7 days, I've seen my dad sick going to the barn and sick coming back. Had to be milked. I took him over to Carl Cheney's there in Bowling Green. We're milking cows now. We got 9 herds, I think, that have robotic milkers. Cows milking themselves. Just hooked to their freestall barn. Cow walks in, she's got a computer around her neck. They know who she is and what deal. Cow walks in, it automatically lasers read the udder. It takes brushes, washes them off, sprays them off, puts the milkers on, feeds them in the robot. Oh, Bessie comes in, she gets milked 3.2 times a day. She gives 12 more pounds of milk a day. She's lasting longer. Oh, Bessie's the boss cow. She comes in, gets milk, she goes around, comes in again, and come in anytime they want to. It knows by the computer, Bessie, you done been milked. Psst, kicks her out. It even measures the temperature of the milk coming out of the cow. 1 degree above body temperature, and it kicks the milk out and sends you a text. Bessie's running the temperature. This is agriculture in 2021. Now, you get into the hog side of things, you'll have to have some hog stories from me. Now, look at me. When I married Miss Dee Dee, I was 5'9", 177, a lean, trim, good-looking dude. Bob your head, you can see it. She fed me biscuits and gravy, and I grew up one day, 5'9", 220. I was like an NFL running back. Then I went to work for the state. I kept eating like I was farming. I get so fat you couldn't see my eyes. Now, I'm back down to 230-something now, but I'll never see 177 again. I got too much muscle for that. When I got in the hog business in 1980, we were producing a 230, 240-pound hog that had 1.2 inches of fat and a 4.5-inch pork chop. The doctors were telling, do not eat that stuff. It will plug your arteries. It was too fat. We start buying on a grade and yield system, and all of a sudden, we get them too lean. The more you chew it, the bigger it gets. Fat is flavor. Today, we produce a 280-pound hog, same amount of time as that one in 1980, 50 pounds more, with 7,500 fat and a 6'8" pork chop. You think we don't respond? The consumer's the boss. They know exactly what you want. We're up to 30 pigs per sow per year. I remember when raising 8 was just home run. Now it's 12. Amazing. Genetics, nutrition, environment, all producing pork that you guys love. We just wish we could make them all out of bacon, because that's where it's at. You get over on the beef cattle side, and we're the largest beef cattle state east of Mississippi. We got 1 million cows. We do it everywhere. We use the poorest ground we've got to do it. Put the grain on the good ground, put the cattle on the sorry ground. Grow grass, control the erosion. Now, question is, when you drive around, what color is them cows? Black. Have any idea why that is? Anybody in there ever eat certified Angus beef? Yeah. How about that Angus hamburger? Now, you tell me the difference between Angus hamburger and Holstein hamburger. It's called marketing. Boy, what's happened is certified Angus beef, the Angus Association has taken black hide and a quality grade and turned it in. And it's a great product. It's a great product. They're even taking what we call chocolate calves, Charolais Angus cross calves, to certified Angus beef with an affidavit saying it's hired by an Angus bull. That's how much demand they have. The guy that runs certified Angus beef, John Sticka, got his master's and PhD at University of Kentucky. He's a good one. He's a good one. We do beef cattle better than anybody and turn it into one of the most wonderful proteins you've ever seen. Now, on the crop side, I'm old enough to have followed a mule through a tobacco patch. I remember him doing real good and going away from the barn and tearing it all up coming back. I remember Dad coming from the barn and giving us both an attitude adjustment. That's when you could do that. It worked perfectly on me. It didn't help that mule a bit. Today we soil test the ground. We take that data, plug it in to our satellites, GPS. We go over a poor piece of ground, we put less seed. We go over a great piece of ground, we put more seed. We make a trip around the outside of the field and turn the steering wheel loose. GPS auto steer. First row's crooked, they're all crooked. But they're the same distance apart. We don't waste a spot and we don't double spot. Managing nutrients as they lay in the field. This is agriculture in 2021. It's different than you think it is. Now, the most interesting thing I learned working at the governor's office is that the most intriguing part of agriculture is all the things we don't know yet. Hemp came to us. Maybe we thought it was the replacement for tobacco. In agriculture, we just cannot stand prosperity. If it's good, we're going to produce more than we can stand, and that's kind of what we did. 170,000 acres produced, and we could only process 100,000 acres deal. But it's intriguing. Grain, that's the hemp hearts, the hemp proteins. That's the health food stuff. Fiber, anything you can produce out of plastic or steel, you can make out of hemp. Google hemp car. You know what comes up? Henry Ford. It's not new. It was thrown away in 1937 by the Marijuana Act because it's part of the cannabis family. And then there's CBD. Gave a speech one time, Mr. Harmon in E-Town, and 6 ladies came up to me and they said, I'm taking CBD for my hip, for my knee, it's helping people. It's helping people. The problem the commissioner has, and he's fought and fought to get it done, is FDA don't know what to do with it. What do? You prove everything, and then you go to FDA to get it approved. It's on the market, and we have no science. My doctor said, Beeler, what do you think about this CBD? I said, it's helping people. I said, what do you think, Doc? Food does, no science. Got opportunity. Hemp still has opportunity because it's the most versatile crop we've ever seen. One day, Jonathan Schell, who's here, sent me a guy from Germany, had a PhD from MIT, into the governor's office of ag policy. I'm not sure with that MIT thing I could even talk to him, being from Caneyville, but the pharmaceutical guy, and he had a product called Artemisia. Artemisia has primarily been grown in Vietnam, and it's the only medication for malaria in the world. He came to Kentucky because they grow it like tobacco. We don't have malaria. What's interesting is University of Kentucky Medical Center, in other countries, they use Artemisia like we use chemo here to treat cancer without the side effects. And the research looks really good. This is what's interesting about agriculture is plain and simply, God put a cure for cancer on this earth. In some plant, in some place, you know he did. Finding it is the exciting part. What we don't know is terrific. Now, what I've learned most of all about all those things is I've learned it's never ever about the project. It's always about the people. People make things go and people make things not go. It could be the most wonderful project, and I thought, wow. And the person didn't have the go. And we had projects where, whoa, we just thought, this won't work. And the right person made it go. We did a deal in Whitesburg in Letcher County where they turned a kitchen that was in an old school that had been shut down into a certified kitchen. They bought all the local stuff they could buy. They weren't making canned and frozen stuff. They'd done some of that. They were making lunches. feeding the hungry for $5.50 a plate versus the $9.50 they were buying frozen dinners out of Iowa. It's way better. We had a lady named Valerie Horn. I knew she was one. She was one of them that make it go. So I studied the people. So I started studying what kind of talents do these people have. You look at these leaders like we've got here today in all aspects of the co-op and all of government. And all of them have certain things about them. One is, I've never ever seen one succeed that didn't come in just excited, enthused, and passionate about what they came in about. I mean, and then, you know what happens? When the more they talk to you, the more contagious it is. You believe what they believe. I judge livestock shows. I was judging, in 1996, I was judging the Houston Livestock Show. 4,896 hogs. You hear what I said? 4,896. I looked at 2,800. Keep go. The first day. I laid down that night. They were still coming. I couldn't stop it. Only 660 got to go to Houston, but the cheapest one over there got $1,000 in 1996. It's a big deal. I got down to 4 kids. 2 got to go, and 2 didn't. I picked this little girl, and she jumps about this high, and she comes over to hug me and karate chops me right in the throat. I remember the excitement. The next one was a big old boy, about 6'4", a hunkered down. He jumps about this high. He comes over, and he bear hugs me, lifts me off the ground. Remember the excitement. I don't remember the other 2 kids. The other 2 kids that got so close, but I never seen a thing. The discipline, the character, they're the ones that got the lesson that day. They got put on the truck and got this close. I needed to hug them. Excitement. It's contagious, and you have to have it. The second thing I watch for is that I've never seen anybody succeed that didn't work at it. My dad said being lazy was worse than stealing. In my opinion, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. I was judging shows all over the country there, and I was down in Jackson, Mississippi. And little girl came in showmanship. Now, that's not how good the animal is, but how good the kid shows the animal. And she was Down syndrome. And, I have a handicapped child. I'm old school. Good's good and bad's bad. Whoever wins is the best. And this little girl was winning. I couldn't believe it. I kept waiting and waiting, kept thinking those other kids are gonna come. They're gonna beat her. I never did. She was the best one. And I picked her. And the crowd jumps up and starts screaming and yelling. I'll never forget, her dad ran across the ring crying. Oh, it still gets me to this day. I just thought, how hard did that daddy and that little Down syndrome girl have to work to get her to stay on task long enough to win showmanship? It's what you do when you don't have to do anything that makes people successful. It's that extra trip to the barn. It's that staying after work late to get things done. It's what you do when you don't have to do anything. It sets people apart. Success is earned. The third thing, I call it becoming a good listener. I think teachers are the most important people in the world because every person has to start over. We start ABC 1, 2, 3. If I could have started where Grandpa ended, I'd been brilliant. But we don't. We have to learn it all over again. And I will tell you, I was judging in Billings, Montana. And they started in showmanship, they want to start with the older kids. And I thought, well, some of those kids, this might be their last year. And strange judge. And, I said, I don't want to be the older kids to be the guinea pig. So can I talk to them just for 2 minutes? So I said, sure. So they come out and brought them down to the ring from the bleachers. An hour and a half later, we started the show. Their parents came down. They asked question after question. They were starved to learn. It's okay not to know everything, but it's not okay not to learn something every day. And if you don't get it back. I wish I could go back to my 20s when I thought I knew everything and learn, but I don't miss a day now. I'm starved at 66 years old, starved to learn more than any time in my life. Now, the last thing I see in these people who really get along is they have a very positive can-do attitude, and it's contagious. And I'm not sure that negative isn't more contagious than positive when it comes down to it. You can destroy an office with one person that just thinks everything's not going to happen. Or you can make an office just so special and so wonderful and get so much done when you think you can. That's the thing. I was judging up in Germantown, Mason County, Germantown Fair. And I was judging sheep. And this little girl came in, about this tall, just kind of chunky with glasses, just as cute as she could be. And she had the nastiest sheep in the history of sheep. I'm talking sloppy, fat, belly-dragging, bad sheep. It didn't take no expert judge to see this sheep was bad. So I'm going down through there, and I'm handling the sheep, and I get to her sheep, and he's just as fat as he looks. I said to her, I said, gosh, you've been feeding your sheep good? She said, yes, sir. I've been sneaking out of a night feeding it extra. I said, I can tell. She said, I know he's too fat. My daddy told me he's too fat, but she said, this is my first time to show. I said, well, you're doing fine. So what do? You're the judge. Cute girl, bad sheep, where does she place? Last. And I could kind of tell the crowd was nervous for this little girl. What was Beeler going to say about this sheep you couldn't say anything good about? When I got down there, it's almost like God tapped me on the shoulder, and I said, ladies and gentlemen, this little girl told me it's her first time to show. Didn't she do a good job? And the crowd stood up and clapped for the girl who got last. I've never had it happen in 40-some years of judging. I thought, I learned something that day. I learned it's just as important how you handle the bottom two as how you place the top two. I learned if you look hard enough, there's a win in every loss. You just have to find it. Being positive is the lesson. Now, what I can't stand, and Mr. Beck covered it, what I can't stand is when you lose, you pout. Life's not fair. Not fair to any of us. But losing teaches more than winning. Winning's wonderful. Winning just gives you the feeling of self-respect that you can whip the world. But when you pout and lose and blame somebody else for it, you don't figure out what you did wrong. You don't make any progress. You do it again. Life's not been totally fair to Dee Dee and I. We had 5 children. Our youngest daughter, Abby, was born severely handicapped. When we had her, we thought the world had ended. We feel as sorry for herself. We were pitiful. She's 30 now. Can't walk, can't talk. She's like an infant. But she loves me all the time. She don't sass me. I don't have to worry about who she's running around with tonight. After all these years, what looks so bad, I may have made the perfect child. He's not going to go off and leave us. What looks so bad turned out to be the center of our family, a blessing that basically sets a tone. That's the lesson. In December of 98, hog business got terrible. We had 1,200 sows and 3 farms, and Dee Dee said, you got to get a real job. I was sitting at the table in the middle of the night, not being able to pay my bills. I was embarrassed. I was ashamed. I knew she was right. She's always right. Beeler Smith gave me a job. I started off, I was embarrassed, ashamed to have to start over at 43 years old. Here we are 20-some years later, where I worked myself into being the governor's agriculture person. and I get a chance to come here and talk to the rural cooperative deal. Doesn't get any better than this. What looks so bad at 43 turned out to be the perfect job and an absolute blessing for a guy that just eats and sleeps and loves agriculture. What looked so bad was wonderful. Now, October 27th in 2002, Dee Dee and I hugged our oldest daughter, Emily, sent her back to college at U of L. She's a marketing student. We knew something was wrong because she hadn't called. Had just passed Brooks Road. A lady lost control and come across and hit her. She was gone. I'll never forget the policeman coming to the door, and our little Caneyville policeman behind him with tears in his eyes. She was gone. You don't get over that. 19 years now. But we've learned from it. It took me years to be able to talk about it. When we went to clean out her dorm room, it said on their bulletin board, "Don't be afraid. Afraid to meet new people, try new foods." I thought, how profound for an 18-year-old to understand that the thing that limits us the most is our fear. Fear we're afraid to do this or that. She was quiet. Dean and I were trying to be the perfect parents. We made her give the 4-H speeches. We did everything. But a teacher named Cynthia Smith took her in DECA, and she was looking at her shoes way too much and not have her head up quite enough to suit me. But she turned out to be DECA president, a national award winner, regional officer, senior class president. Best speech I ever heard was Emily's speech at graduation in my life. You shouldn't have to lose a child to understand just how precious life is one day at a time. We hug a little harder. We tell each other we love you. We know that the most important thing in the world is family. So life gives us talent. God gives us talent. Life gives us a chance to develop that talent. We have no idea how long we're going to be on this earth. So please, please, don't waste a day. Thank you for letting me come.